Brian Forrester, the authority on megalithic structures discovered in South America. The implications behind Brian Forrester's theories could change the history books. We're going to take a wild ride around the world. Could the secrets of ancient high technology be revealed? From Cusco, Peru, and Easter Island, reports continuously come in. Ancient artifacts destroyed in a cataclysm. What was behind it? Was there a war between men and gods? Could these megalithic structures unlock the secrets to the origin of man? Did extraterrestrials from thousands of years ago come to Earth and build these megastructures? The advent of new technology acquired by Brian Forrester could unlock the truth behind the secrets of these megastructures. Let's get to Brian Forrester joining us all the way from Lima, Peru. Welcome to the show, Brian.
Blake, it's always a pleasure for me to be with the Cousins brothers in your pursuit of the truth.
Good to be with you, Brian. And I got Dr. J with us, and we got some questions for you. Let's just get to it. If the Incas didn't build these megalithic structures, who did?
Well, Blake, the Inca could not have built the megalithic structures because they were a Bronze Age people. And the stone that was cut and shaped is much harder than bronze. The basic principle you have to work with is that your tool has to be harder than the material you're cutting. And therefore, it's clear, also based on weathering, that these megalithic structures are much older than the Inca civilization and had to have been made by a very advanced technological civilization. The only options I think we have are either the so-called Atlanteans or extraterrestrials.
A civilization of gods, men, power, and destruction. The island, the continent that existed beyond the Pillars of Hercules, which in our time we call the Straits of Gibraltar. Well, the description of Atlantis is so detailed that it begs the question, did this place actually exist? Can we use Plato's description as a guide to find the lost continent of Atlantis? It was claimed by Plato that the gods of the old divided the land so that each god would have their own Poseidon, given Atlantis. An island that was larger than Atlantis was an island consisting mainly of mountains. Plato calculated it would be 3,000 stadiums in modern times that equal around 355 miles wide.
You mentioned high technology a few times in your videos. Can I ask you what your theories are of some of the tools that were involved in making these megastructures?
The tools used to make the megalithic structures in the highlands of Peru we have to assume that they were beyond our present capability in the 21st century. And so in Egypt, for example, we see evidence of saw and drill technology, but in the highlands of Peru, it honestly appears as if this ancient civilization was able to change the molecular nature of the stone itself and turn it into almost like a marshmallow material temporarily.
Historians and experts have their own theories on how old these megastructures really are. What's your thoughts on the true origin of their age?
The age of the megalithic structures, we have to presume, are 12,000 plus years old. And this is based on the idea that there was a cataclysmic event or series of cataclysmic events that occurred on the planet about 12,000 years ago. And this is being backed up by science today.
Ancient symbols carved into stone at an archaeological site in Turkey tell of a story of a devastating comet impact. Scientists were analyzing the mysterious symbols carved into stone pillars at Evidence from carvings made on a pillar known as the Vulture Stone suggests that a swarm of comet fragments hit the Earth in around 11,000 BC. This devastating event, which wiped out creatures such as the woolly mammoths, also helped spark the rise of civilization. Scientists have speculated for decades that a comet could have caused the sharp drop in temperature during the period known as the Younger Days. By interpreting the animals as astronomical symbols and using computer software to match their position to the patterns of stars, research dated the event to about 10,950 BC. It probably resulted from a breakup of a giant comet in the solar system.
What's the importance of Göbekli Tepe, found in Turkey, now that it's discovered happens to be over 20,000 years old?
Göbekli Tepe appears to have been buried on purpose about 12,000 years ago, so its actual age is unknown, but obviously older than that. And what it makes it important is the fact that most civilizations are believed to be maximum 6,000 years old, such as in the Indus Valley. But now we have evidence of sophisticated cultural people existing at least 12,000 years ago.
I want to get your true thoughts, Brian. What could have caused these catastrophic events in the past? Was it possibly Mother Nature, earthquakes, a meteorite, or was there some kind of weapon that was used that we don't know about?
My theory about the cataclysm is again that it happened about 12,000 years ago. It could have lasted as much or as long as 300 years, and likely it was an emission of energy from galactic center that then crossed the galactic plane, entered our solar system, blew up one of the planets, which created the asteroid belt, then went through the sun and shot plasma from the sun straight at the Earth. This caused the immediate melting and ending of the last ice age very rapidly, in possibly weeks. The sea levels of the Earth rose by 300 plus feet, putting pressure on the crust of the Earth. This would have triggered earthquakes and other terrible events to happen on our planet, would have wiped out all of the megafauna of North America, wiped out most of humanity, and any advanced civilization also would have disappeared at this time, especially those that were close to the coast. This is where we come up with the concept of the ancient civilization of Atlantis being destroyed, according to Plato, about 12,000 years ago.
The Atlanteans built bridges connected these rings of lands. They built docks, bridges, out of stone from the cliffs surrounding the islands. The walls were made of red and white and black rock. Giant walls, a tower were placed at the entrances to every concentric ring. The walls were covered with brass and tin and whatever precious metal they had in the area. He spoke of how the island nation was made of rings, within rings, within rings. Rings were everywhere. Where mountains arose on the islands, you could find rings of water and land. And if that isn't enough, these islands are covered with ancient pyramids that no one knows who built them. There are even pyramids found underneath the water, like there was some kind of catastrophe. And what part of the land where these pyramids once existed is now underwater?
What is the oldest megastructure or structures that you believe were not created by man, rather from some sort of ancient high technology?
I think that the megalithic works that we see in the highlands of Peru, as well as Pumapunku and Tiwanaku in Bolivia, the Great Pyramid System in Egypt, Baalbek in Lebanon, Petra in Jordan, and other structures in Turkey, Greece, and Italy are all at least 12,000 years old. I can't say how old they are, but I can tell you all of them, I believe, based on geological weathering, the fact that high technology was used, that all of these structures, which we think of as simply being enigmatic, are a minimum of 12,000 years old.
Lately, Brian, you've been using the drone and getting unprecedented shots of these megalithic structures. How has it helped you in recent discoveries?
The use of drones, or quadcopters as I prefer to call them, give you an unprecedented view of the megalithic structures because you literally can see from a bird's eye's point of view. Also, you can scan the area to see if there are other structures in the area that you can't see from the ground. And so it's a phenomenal new tool that is opening up possibilities, explanations, and views that we never had before.
Now, Brian, we're looking at this incredible geometric shape embedded in the side of the mountain. What could have made this? What was the tools behind it? Some people are saying it's a moon calendar.
The site you're referring to is called Kiarumiok, which in the Inca language means the stones of the moon. But of course the Inca didn't make it. It had to have been made probably with advanced technology, and the weathering on the stone surface shows us that it's incredibly ancient. Some people theorize that it was a moon calendar, other people theorize that it was a solar calendar, possibly it was both. But the local people themselves and academics have no explanation as to who made it, when, why, and what its original function was. The Inca probably used it as a ceremonial site, but they used all of the megalithic places as ceremonial sites.
All right, Brian, what do you got to say to the people of Peru today in regards to your theories that the Incas, in fact, did not build these megalithic structures? It almost sounds like you want to rewrite the history books.
Well, the great thing is that the people of Peru, especially the guides at Machu Picchu, actually come up to me more and more as time goes on because of my YouTube channel, and they tell me, your theories are fascinating. It appears that our history here is much older than what we were taught in school. And so the Peruvian people are warming up to the concept that civilization in this little country, which is incredibly rich culturally, dates back a minimum of 12,000 years and employed lost ancient high technology way, way in the distant past. Academics don't accept this, but the people are starting to understand, which is phenomenal.
Tell me about your recent trip back to Pumapunku and the H blocks and the anomalies in regards to your compass readings.
Pumapunku in Bolivia is becoming more and more interesting and enigmatic because there are two types of stone there. Red sandstone, which is neutral as regards magnetism, and then the gray andesite, which is magnetic. But the interesting thing is the magnetism of the H blocks, for example, which are made of the gray andesite, it's not an even magnetism difference that we find, but it depends on the surface that you're scanning. So what Dr. Ken is showing you now is the natural magnetism of the area. And then when he comes close to the stone, again, about a 180-degree change. And here are some of the magnetic anomalies that we are studying. This is in the center of one of the H blocks. Notice the compass moves 180 degrees and then 90 degrees more, and then becomes somewhat erratic. So no one understands fully what is going on with the magnetism here. It's not simply the fact that the stone contains magnetite. It means that the magnetism has been altered. Possibly it relates to the shapes of the H blocks and other stones themselves. And then here we have Dr. Ken on the stone that has the groove in it with the holes. Again, notice what happens to the compass needle. Absolutely amazing. So that's my present study, is to try to correlate the relationship between the shaping of the stone, magnetism, and the incredible flat surfaces that we encounter at Pumapunku, which again, most academics believe were made by the Tiwanaku civilization 2,000 to 1,000 years ago. But it's clear whoever created Pumapunku had very advanced, lost, ancient, high technology.
Now, Brian, this is my final question for you. And again, this is a personal question. In your own gut, what is your belief of how these ancient structures were created? Do you think that we as humanity created them, or do you think that they were created by extraterrestrials or non-terrestrial beings that did not originate from this earth?
Again, the fact that many of the megalithic structures, if not all of them, in the highlands of Peru and Bolivia were made using very advanced technology, in some cases technology we don't have in the 21st century, tells me quite strongly that, again, there was possibly a very advanced human civilization that did it, or it was extraterrestrial in nature. Now, I'm beginning to think less and less that it was done by an advanced human civilization, because we would have to see cultural development. We don't see that. So either the human civilization was destroyed by ancient cataclysmic events 12,000 years ago, or that extraterrestrials were here at that time and they constructed these megalithic structures in Peru, Bolivia, and other parts of the world.
Brian, it's been an incredible adventure with you. Thanks for joining us right here at Third Phase Moon. You keep in touch and let us know if you find any more discoveries in the areas that you visit, man.
It's always a pleasure for me to work with the Cousins brothers, and I'd love to get back in contact with you to discuss my recent findings on Easter Island, evidence of lost ancient high technology, as well as future discoveries in February in Mexico and April in Egypt, Lebanon, and Jordan, and beyond. Aloha to you and all of your audience from me here in Paracas, Peru.
And also, thank you, Dr. J, for joining us right here.
Blake, it's always a pleasure to be on, and thanks again.
Everybody from around the world who just watched this, appreciate your support right here at Third Phase of Moon. Keep your eyes on the skies. We're not alone. We'll see you again next time.
The best way to observe the island, of course, is by a quadcopter. And in this case, it's little Horace, my smallest of 3 quadcopters, very transportable and collapsible. And this gives you a sense of the landscape around Moon Island. You see ancient agricultural terraces of the Inca time period. And the island of the moon was specifically a place for the chosen women of the Inca. They were the highest level of femininity in the Inca civilization. And this was their refuge, or I guess almost the equivalent of a nunnery or convent, but in the Inca concept, women had as high a place in the civilization as men. And so this site has been largely reconstructed. And you can see its composition is actually quite simple. It's rough-hewn stone with clay mortar, and then the clay mortar is used to cover the surfaces in order to give the buildings a very pleasant appearance. They're the standard looking trapezoidal shapes that you find at many Inca structures. And now pulling back once again, you see that almost the entire island at one time was terraced. And I don't know how many of these chosen women lived here, probably several hundred. And then this gives detail of the archaeological site, probably destroyed by the Spanish in the 16th century. And this area is now being restored rather slowly. And then this gives you a view of the quadcopter going out to have a look at Lake Titicaca. If you look very carefully, you can see the Andes in the background on the left-hand side. Others are covered in cloud because it's snowing at this point. And here again we see the very, again, quite simple construction of the Inca complex. And not that many tourists visit the island of the moon as compared to the island of the sun, but it's well worth it if you are in the area of Lake Titicaca. And as a little bonus, here we are at the island of the Sun, which is much, much larger and quite close by. And this is a view of one of the Inca sun temples. Again, not a sophisticated structure. It would still be quite complex in terms of the number of people required to build it. But remember that all of the complex polygonal work that you see in the city of Cusco is pre-Inca. This is what an actual Inca structure looks like. And finally, I'll soon be making a video about this site near Lake Titicaca called Kanawani. It's unknown what civilization or culture created it. So if you're interested in joining us in Peru and Bolivia, we have 3 tours for you in 2019. The Inti Raymi Inca Celebration of the Sun. There are 7 spaces left on that tour. Then in August we have the Elongated Skulls of Peru tour, which involves going to the coast and the highlands of Peru. And also we're going to Turkey in September of 2019. Very excited about that. And finally in November 2019, the Serpentine Mysteries Tour of Peru and Bolivia. Thank you.